Do you believe that the new creators are an evolution of where creators and talent are coming, or are they really another cohort of creators that are being created?
I think it's both. You're always going to have people with innate talents, traditional talents pop up, right? People that are good at music, have a great, songwrite, they can rap, people that can act, people that, the performing arts side of the talent pie is always going to be there. You know what I mean? It's just about now, the way I think about talent is like that pie just has to make a lot more than a little bit of room, more towards the tune of a lot of room for a new talent attribute, which is your ability to create community, your ability to communicate multi-platform, your ability to create content, your ability to storytell in these new ways. You know what I mean? And that hasn't been universally recognized as talent yet.
Welcome to Beyond Luxury, where we explore emerging trends and take them one step further. Join us as we redefine the meaning of luxury in today's ever-evolving world. Building on the themes of my book, Beyond Luxury, The Promise of Emotion, we invite thought leaders from fashion, beauty, wellness, travel, hospitality, culture, and tech to share their insights and story. Welcome to part 2. If you haven't caught up with part 1 yet, I highly recommend starting there. It sets the stage for everything we're about to explore. Let's get right back into it. So going back to where you're at now.
Yeah.
You're Chief Strategy Officer for
FaZe Clan.
FaZe Clan.
Yeah. No, we can be fancy. We can be fancy.
Fazzy.
We're in Europe. We're in UK. Fazzy Clan.
Yeah, Fazzy Clan. How was that, and how did that? Again, you've been looking into what's the new internet, what's the new technologies, what's the new everything, and here you pushed into gaming, Web3, fashion, what it had to do with the new creator economy, and it's super interesting to kind of get just a sneak peek into what that looked like. Can you talk a little bit about that phase?
Yeah. When COVID hit, I was sitting in my house and I was just like, no way is everything just stopped. Like, I was just sitting in the house like, I can't. Like, I'm just not that kind of person. I was just sitting there. I was going crazy, like week 2, And I'm sitting there and I'm like, man, if I ever want to just like make a huge move, it's right now. Anyone, like, I could just feel the frequency of like other big movers being like, oh, this is it. You know what I mean? So I just started trying to figure out, like, what am I going to do as a 40-year-old entrepreneur? You know what I mean? Like, actually, not like I got this fucking bullshit business or whatever. Like, what am I actually going to do with myself, my life? What am I going to dedicate the next, let's just call it 20 years to, right? Like, philosophically. And I just kind of sat there and thought about talent. I grew up in the entertainment business around the sickest, most amazing legacy talent, people that don't have to put songs out ever again and they tour until they die. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Actors and directors and people that are just like, they're in they're legends. I had the random kind of I was blessed to be able to work with Quincy Jones early on in my music business career, and he wanted me to A&R one of his albums randomly. I'm just like, honestly, some of it too was like, I was like the black dude in the room. Like, I'm the only black dude in here and I'm 26. And they're like, what do you do? Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And I'm like, I work with Snoop Dogg. I do this. And he's like, okay, cool. You want to work on my album with me? And I'm like, hell yeah. You know what I mean? So I get to sit down one-on-one with Quincy Jones and go through all his stems to all his songs, with a $3 million budget at Interscope to go just remake these songs with the biggest people in the world. Wow. And I'm young, right? So learning from masters like that made me understand talent on a different level. And I'm like, who's the next talent? Like,
this was what our conversation was about on the yacht, by the way.
Yeah. Yeah. Next
talent.
Yeah, who's the next talent? Like, legacy talent. Yeah. You know what I mean? And like, what do they do? Like, where are they? How are they seeing this future post whatever this pandemic is? Like, what's about to come? Like, and I just knew that everything's happening digital right now. Everyone's on, these different, if you're working somewhere, you're working remote now and you're now on a virtual call with, or meeting or whatever. So I just went back to my SkeeTV days. I'm like, yo, what's the internet doing right now? Like, who, you know what I mean? So I just started looking it up, and I knew some really big like YouTube stars and gamers and stuff like that from just being out in LA. And someone I had worked with in my music days was now the CEO of FaZe Clan, this company that was like this amazing brand started in 2011, 2012. By some gamers, you know, that were all like teenagers. They grew up playing Call of Duty. They met online on Xbox. They became best friends, and then like a couple years later, they went and like moved in together. Right, like every kind of teenage boy's dream to like go move in with your homies and play video games and hang out. Like they did that. And they, you know, they started making clips of all this content that was more like trick shots of like Call of Duty stuff, you know what I mean? Like sniper shots that are doing trick shots, they're uploading it to YouTube. It's getting millions of views. Or like montages, so they're like editing it to this really, you know, dope music, dope feel, you know. And I remember like back in the day seeing those because I played Call of Duty my whole life, you know what I mean? So I'm like, oh yeah, those are I used to watch those videos, you know. I wasn't young enough to be like, oh, that's FaZe Clan, you know. And so, I don't know, I just started looking at that talent going, they're killing it. Like, I didn't see that as gaming. I saw it as entertainment. You know what I mean? And, like, I could tell, and I'm like, I got to go to a company like this. I have to go from entrepreneur to go into a company because I want to meet them. And I want to meet them on their terms. And that was really that was it. I was just like, I need to meet this next legacy talent. Went into FaZe Clan. Took a minute, you know. But the whole time during COVID, I just watched all their content. Like, I spent 8 months watching YouTube videos, just like soaking up game, thinking, looking at what, you know, just trying to figure out what they're on. I'm not going to know it all. I'm not going to, you know, again, I'm 40. I'm not like, you know, but it just was like, I soaked up all their content, went into the company. And at first it was like, that was my only real ambition and goal, was to get to know them. And then it became one of those things where like, I'm also competitive and I have my track record of like what I've been doing. And I like, once I got in there, I was just like, okay, it's a little bit of a cultural problem here, you know, like corporate culture wise, all this talent's kind of off to the side. And there was a lot of people my age that were like trying to run a business and like, honestly, you know, just trying to do their thing. And they felt like they were part of something special, which they were. But it was just like an unhealthy balance of like bringing your old head bag in here and taking and unpacking 100% of that bag instead of like 50%.
Right.
And so I was like, okay, well, I got to help balance this shit. You know what I mean? So it just turned out to be one of those things where I'm like, all right, I need to start hiring and bringing in people from this culture into the company. Right. And so that's, you know, I started to create. I was head of creative. Funny, go figure. But my real job wasn't to be the creative. It was to bring in the culture, you know what I mean, into the company. So I hired like 20, 25 amazing, talented young people that once I hired 2 or 3 of them, you know, one of my business partners today, Brandon, he was one of them. And I think he was like 24 at the time. He was already at FaZe, but I like brought him over because I saw him with the talent. I'm like, yo, come over here. I'm starting this thing. And it was like, once that happened, I'm like, okay, there's no LinkedIn for who the dope creatives are in this space that understand this whole culture. So y'all go find the rest. You know what I mean? Like, I just
That's
fully
trust. True.
Yeah.
There's no LinkedIn for all these creators. It's really hard to find them.
Yeah, and they have their own frequency. They got their own sauce. They got they protect their culture in certain ways. So they're gonna hang around and gravitate towards people that they think are dope and that they think identify with the culture they're in that way. So I don't know that. Neither does HR. Neither does the COO. Right. So go find it. Let's do it. Right. And I just got a reputation in kind of being that guy. Like, I'm not going to sit here, like, y'all the compass. I'm not the compass anymore. I'm not tapped in 27, 28 anymore with some CEO handing me a bag telling me to do what I know.
Right.
Right. But who is that? So I'm going to just engage with people that I thought represented like something similar to where I came from, you know, and I trust that wholly. I would rather bet on that than speculate. And when you're just talking odds and numbers and just probability and humans and people, that's a better bet. for that in particular. You know what I mean? If I want to hire a controller on the finance side, yeah, let's hit LinkedIn.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right.
But and so yeah, it just kind of really gave me that reputation of like being talent, promoter of talent, I guess, and I just I see that culture in those people and those humans. And Banks, who was a founder of FaZe, like really it took a minute, but like he really leaned in and showed me a lot and taught me and like stamped me, so to speak, to the rest of this like talent world that was under his trust umbrella. And it just culturally put me in a space as like an executive that was unique. And I don't, and I still hold on to that, and I make sure that I protect that because it's special. And that's going to be the next 20 years of my life, is playing that role. You know what I mean? So FaZe was an amazing experience. I got to lead, you know what I mean? I eventually was chief strategy officer. I helped run day to day. It was like a 200-person company. So I had a lot of people reporting directly to me. I had an amazing creative team, and as a chief strategy officer of that kind of business, just taking my experience from content, merchandise and fashion, marketing, talent, right? Those were all the areas and buckets of the business that made up FaZe Clan. It was a brand with 6 buckets of business that I've been a business owner in.
Right.
And there's not a lot of C-suite individuals that have been builders in that way. They're usually, some people are great managers, but when it comes down to sitting with an executive who's the head of each one of those divisions, I could sit down and I could talk your language with you. You know what I mean? And we could come up with solutions together. And it's just a different relationship. And it's just faster. You have to react and move fast, even if you're like a big kind of corporate giant in that way. And just gave me a bleeding edge seat to like what's happening in entertainment the following couple years, which is like the good and the bad. You know what I mean? Like what's the turbulence? What's the pain points? Like where is this friction? Why, how do you balance these things, brand and commerce? So
stop everything you're doing. If you love our podcast and are passionate about the future of luxury, don't forget to hit follow. The more followers we have, the bigger guests we can bring on. Without you, we couldn't do what we do. So thank you. So you went from FaZe Clan to creating your own company.
Yeah.
Fewture Co.
Yeah.
First of all, can we go through Fewture? Why is it spelled that way?
Why is it spelled that way? Fewture is spelled F-E-W because it's in the name. Like I just think there's a few people that are gonna like lead the charge and lead the way when it comes to like creator economy, the new entertainment business, luxury and fashion. There's a in-between generation between like everyone who's probably in their 50s and above that are still kind of gatekeeping certain areas of those industries. And, there's some 80s babies that exist that have enough knowledge, have been tested and true, and have a healthy relationship with Gen Z to take these new businesses to different heights, you know what I mean? And to kind of evolve them in this new time we're in.
I love that.
Yeah.
And what gap are you filling right now with Fewture Co? What are you focused on? And what is that? What are you merging together to build?
So Fewture Co is a modern holdco entertainment business, right? So it's, I would like to say that the end vision for it would be almost like an LVMH of creator brands and IP. And so really that's the holdco. Fewture Studios is where we operate from, right? So Fewture Studios is, again, a modern entertainment business. And so when I come from LA, come from TV and film, it's baked in me. I've got that kind of pedigree and roots from my mom being in the entertainment business. So it's just a different lens. And it was really important to me to create a business in the now, right? Because with all of this change, right, if you build a business fundamentally in the now, you will be able to like maybe go a little bit further, because a lot of the old models are just they're maxed out. They're maxed out. These are 50 to 100-year-old models that are fully maxed out, and no one's really addressed those elephants in the room for those industries, and it's just like these are multiple earthquakes, right? So it's really important to start this like modern entertainment business and studio where we can give modular infrastructure to talent we want to work with, talent that, you know, some of them are making a lot of money with 4-person teams, right? Which is great. That's like it's DIY. It's the way it should be. But, you know, I know people making $10 to $15 million, the early 20s, right, on YouTube, and they got 4-person teams. And now the great ones, the ones that like really just aren't just doing it for the money, but like they just have the insatiable desire to reinvent themselves and create, they want to do more stuff, right? Problem is the trust has been broken with people that are able to maybe help them bring financing, bring some modular infrastructure. And so being at Phase really taught me to be that human. And so like I wanted to start a company that was about providing that modular infrastructure for us to co-create and make IP together.
Incredible. And what is the phase that you're at right now with the creation of, especially the studio? Because it sounds like that's the first way into what you're creating now.
Yeah. So right now, like we just brought in a really amazing VC, you know, that came in and really just believed in us and our vision. And I don't think anyone really fully understands, like with me and Brandon and Josh, the 2 other founders in Fewture with me. I don't think anybody really understands, especially at a VC level. But hey, they're investing in the founder. You know what I mean? They're investing in this kind of like, you know, 20-year experience. Personal. It's definitely personal, you know. So we went and found, you know, investors that believed in that and think that way, you know. And so there's a whole new opportunity with them. I'm really proud to be in business with them. It's this guy, Eric Moore. He's, you know, Black founded VC. He comes from Oakland. We're California guys. We kind of get each other.
Yeah.
Very, very smart and brilliant. He was first money in at Zappos a while back. And, you know, he just has like, I was really important to me that whoever we locked in with on that level was a community builder. Not just about the finance and the company, but like when I got around him and I started to do my due diligence on him too, because it's not just one way.
Absolutely.
I started recognizing that like he had real love in these communities he had created and worked in, and he's a supporter of, you know, talent. Whether that be founder or, you know, on-camera talent. So we got a pretty good relationship going. They're leading our seed round, and they've been great, you know. And so now we have resources to start making IP with this talent that we, you know, have been already sidecar to just because of our history with Phase and you know, the creator economy in that way. But yeah, that's the phase we're in right now. We're just like looking up and saying, okay, what's the best way to kick this off? Like there's 10 avenues. And this is where the A&R process, like my music side of me is just like, okay, cool. Like Brandon, who's my guy, like, you know, who's really been on this path with me from the beginning. He's identifying all these different opportunities and talent and bringing in amazing creatives that are 18, 19 years old that aren't on the radar. You know what I mean? Like we're just cooking up a whole company and business in that way. And it's fucking sick. Like I've never been this inspired in my life. Like I can't stop. Like I flew all the way out here because I'm like, yeah, let's do this podcast in person. Like,
yes,
let's get it.
I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm so excited about what you're building because also I think it continues this ethos we've been talking about and I've been commenting on the whole time.
Yeah.
But it's this ethos that you embody and that everything around you does too. And it's amazing to give that platform.
Yeah.
For that to keep happening.
Sure.
All the time.
Sure. Yeah.
Last question, I think, because I could be here forever asking you things, is where do you see the creator economy going? And do you believe that the new creators are an evolution of where creators and talent are coming? Or are they really another cohort of creators that are being created? Love creation created. But
I think it's both. I think that you're always going to have people with innate talents, traditional talents pop up, right? People that are good at music, have a great, you know, they can songwrite, they can rap, people that can act, people that, you know, the performing arts side of the talent pie is always going to be there. You know what I mean? It's just about now, the way I think about talent is like that pie just has to make a lot more than a little bit of room, more towards the tune of a lot of room for a new talent attribute, which is your ability to create community, your ability to communicate multi-platform, your ability to create content, your ability to storytell in these new ways. You know what I mean? And that hasn't been universally recognized as talent yet. That's been universally recognized as influencers, right? Not talent. And so the really cool part about where I think we're at is it's all kind of segmented right now. Just like in Web3, just like in anything emerging, it's like you never have a straight platform yet, right? So when it comes to like the creator economy, it's like you've had this evolution of like the beginning of influencer culture. You know, you have Vine stars that, you know, then turns into like Vine and YouTube were kind of, you know, hitting at the same time. Then you have this whole,
Vine.
Yeah, remember that?
Wow.
And then, you know, you start seeing these gamers start making content and people, you know, older people looking and going, why are people watching people play video games on stream?
Twitch and all
Yeah,
that.
you know, like that. But that's how it started, right? It's like this very, very early stage of like this new content bubble, right? And it always starts with a lot of times gaming, right? It pushes the technology and pushes these platforms. So, you know, I think you're just seeing talent evolve and grow up with different platforms and interface. Like a lot of people talk about Gen Z and Gen Alpha and they don't really take into consideration how vastly different millennials are from Gen Z and Gen Alpha, to the point where I think that Gen Z and millennials have the biggest gap between any generation to ever come before it. You know, youth culture has been around for 10,000 years. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like people don't think about that. Like things that are universally recognized as fine art and amazing music and all those things, like those things were like the Beatles and Elvis. That was like devil music to the generation before. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Picasso and, you know, Liechtenstein, they were doing stuff where that wasn't art. People of their generation and the generation before, they're like, that's not art. You guys are, that's trash.
Of course.
You know, they're using technology, they're photo mapping on the canvases and doing all these things that were available to them. So that's just been a historic thing. The difference between millennials and Gen Z is millennials are the last in humankind to have lived before these platforms and the internet, right? And
Then there's Zillennials.
Was that?
Zillennials.
Yeah, I think I identify as a millennial. I think that's part of my advantage.
I definitely identified.
Some millennials are super confused. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Some of them are like, those are the ones that like really just hold on to the wrong shit. Because honestly, there's a little bit of like them feeling like they own the internet because their generation or our generation came up with it, so to speak, and like created the first platforms, I guess, for it. But then it evolved into social media and all these different communication platforms and all that shit. But my point is, all of that technology is wedged right in between two generations, right? Or again, like I said, 10,000 years ago, some 40-year-old caveman or cavewoman is looking at some 15-year-old going, why are you wearing lambskin shoes like that? Why you make fire like that? That's not how you make fire.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And now we have that huge gap between us, and that's a huge break in taste. There's not when you have these platforms, the user generated content, when people talk about like that whole UGC world, and people talk about like the creator economy, that's a whole nother world of DIY, do it yourself, low cost, low production, make your own money, have your own taste, engage on your own platforms, do it from your crib. That's a whole nother philosophy. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And so, I don't know. I just think that like when it comes to the talent, it's both. It's people are going to be great at making music, but they're also going to either need to have that new talent attribute of creating community, or they don't get seen. In the music business, you can't break a record on radio anymore unless all the A&Rs only recruit and sign people off TikTok. So unless your shit's popping on TikTok, you're not getting signed.
Right.
Period. Fortunately for you, you can put out your own record because like that's just the state of the world we're in. So it's not like you can't, but you're not going to get a little bit of, you know, marketing power, a little bit of distro, some, you know, you're not going to get those things, which you don't really need. But I'm just saying, like, you know, it's just different now. So
yeah, the full system has changed.
Yeah. Or you find a partner that has that talent and you look at them as the marketing department and the narrative department and you come up with a cohesive narrative and you do creative business together and you make giant products and content and music, you know what I mean? So that's where we're playing. We like the theoretical physics of like pairing talent with unique skills and like creating businesses with them, and like everyone's got, you know, they're all vested in that movement, and like that's where we're at right now. That's the next step for the creator economy is that.
I love it. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing. Thank you for being so open and sharing your true story with us.
Thank you for having me.
It's a really touching story and a very incredible way of proving that there's not one path and actually having this very like here and there and everywhere, and looking at those open doors paths is a way to build an incredible not only career but person and human that you're now pushing for this to keep happening and have this platform for more creators and creatives to be able to have. So thank you so much for coming all the way here.
Yeah, of course.
For the podcast. And again, thanks for making that conversation on the boat reality.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me. This is amazing. And like that conversation happened because of your background. Like I probably wouldn't. I was tired. I hadn't slept in a couple of days. We were in Cannes. So like I was just like, oh, that's your background? Like, okay, cool. And we started talking about the fashion stuff and like just your lens. So I think it's incredible what you're doing, and thank you for inviting me.
Thank you.
Yeah, on the podcast.
Awesome.
Yeah.
For weekly updates on future trends and the latest insights and data on the luxury industry, be sure to follow us on the Beyond Luxury's weekly Substack. Discover our bespoke trend reports and come to us for luxury futures consulting at Beyond Luxury Group.